finished. Now the second is the central sponsored scheme, which is a bone of contention between the union government and the state government. So suppose this is union government and this is state and this is the district or the implementing body. There are two ways through which funds are being allocated from union government to the states. First way is through finance commission. So finance commission is one mechanism through which the funds can be devolved from union government to the state government. Just like the 14th finance commission said 42% of the tax will be devolved, so that will be regarded under tax devolution. Plus some grants will be given, and grants we discussed, three types of grants were given to compensate the revenue deficit. Second one for disaster management, third one for to the local bodies. So these are the funds which are given by finance commission to the states. States means it goes from consolidated fund of India to consolidated fund of state. So directly an untied money is going. Untied means it is the discretion of the states to use this money wherever they want to use it. Suppose there is one state which is facing the drought, Rajasthan. There is one state which is facing some floods. So Bihar can use this money for flood management, Rajasthan can use this money for drought management. But the second mechanism through which the funds is transferred is through Ministry of Finance. So Ministry of Finance transfer the funds through two ways. First one is through the erstwhile Planning Commission, and the second one is directly to the departments of states. We don't have ministries in the states. So suppose Ministry of Finance is giving some funds to the union ministry, and that union ministry is giving the funds to the departments of the state, and the money will go to consolidated fund of state, and finally it will be given to the implementing agency. And the third route is through the Planning Commission. On the recommendations of the Planning Commission, the funds are being devolved to the states. Earlier there was one more mechanism, and that mechanism was Planning Commission was directly giving the funds to the implementing agencies, just like DRDA, District Rural Development Agency. Now because you are giving some funds to the states, these state is getting the money and the funds will be allocated on the basis of the budget of the state. So there can be some time difference, or we can say that we had that Right to Education Act. So under that Right to Education Act, the union government was giving some funds to the state. Now states have to add some amount of money, and that full money will go to the district or the implementing agency. For example, if it is 60:40 ratio, so 60% of the funds required will be given by union government. Under this, 40% will be added by the state from their own resources, and full 100% will be given to the implementing agency. But if suppose states don't have money, if states refuses to implement this thing, then there is no mechanism through which the union government can implement the programs. So to overcome that problem, Planning Commission directly started giving funds to the implementing agencies. Now because there is always a question between uniformity and autonomy, because across India, if you want to implement some program, just like MG Narega, so that should be implemented by union government only. Of course, the implementing body will be state machinery, because state is more close to the people. State knows the lacunas of the implementing agency, but union government cannot implement it. And secondly, whatever all these programs are mentioned under state list. So these implementing agencies which are implementing these programs, they are responsible to the state. But earlier they were directly getting funds from the union government. So funds are directly being devolved by union government to the implementing agency, but for their functioning, for their efficiency, they were responsible to the state government. So you are getting a money from somebody else and giving the reply to someone else. So it is not uniformity versus autonomy. So to avoid such situation, this has stopped earlier. So the funds will be given by a planning commission or directly by the different ministries to the state. State means the consolidated fund of states, and now they will implement this thing. But the unique thing is these funds are the tied funds. Tied fund means if suppose Ministry of Finance is giving some funds for drought management, so you can use these funds only for drought management. Even if there is no problem of drought management, you will get the funds only and only if you want to implement that particular drought management scheme. Otherwise, you will not get this 60% of the funds. But this amount of money which you are getting through Finance Commission, it is untied money. Untied means you can use the 60% of the funds for drought management, flood management, whatever problem you are facing. That is why state wants more money through this route and less money through this route. This is the reason that 14th Finance Commission increased the devolution from 32% to 42%, so that states will have more autonomy to implement all these programs. So the money which goes through this route is known as central sponsored scheme. Central sponsored scheme means schemes which comes under state list but are being implemented with the help of the union government. Because states have less resources, so they are dependent on the union government. And all these taxes, CIT, PIT, custom excise, they are the majority of the taxes. And these taxes are being collected by the union government. So these taxes should be shared with the states. Two options, either on the recommendation of Finance Commission or otherwise. This Finance Commission is an untied money, and this is based on maybe on the recommendations of the Planning Commission or directly by Ministry of Finance. So in 2016, roughly 60% of the funds which are being devolved to the states, they comes through Finance Commission because it has increased drastically, and only 40% of the funds they comes through this route, this tied one, and this is the untied one. Next one is recently there has been a lot of reforms, or in this budget the government has accepted a lot of reforms in this central sponsored scheme. So how to decrease it, or how to decrease the discretionary power? The discretionary power has decreased because the government has divided the CSS, all these CSS schemes into two parts. First one is core and second one is optional. Tied funds in simple words means, suppose the union government is giving some money for education, but the union government is also saying that you have to buy only this blue color marker. You cannot buy a black color marker because it is a tied fund. The conditions are being dictated by the union government. Had this money being come through the channel of Finance Commission, in that case it was the discretion of the states whether to buy a black marker or blue marker, but now it is mandatory. Just like I cannot use this black pen because there is no ink in this black pen. Anyways, so I am forced to use this blue marker. So now after budget 2016-17, the CSS has been divided into core and optional. Now this core is further divided into core of the core. Now just like we discussed, there should be, or there is always a tussle between autonomy and national implementation. Suppose MG Narega should be implemented across India. For example, we have defense. So the purpose of defense, why defense comes under union list is because defense, there should be a common implementation of this sector. It should not be like that this state has a different defense policy, this state having a different state policy. So there is always a question between centralization and decentralization. For which all sector there should be decentralization. For which all sectors the decision should be taken by the local bodies or states, and for which all sectors the decision should be taken by the union government, because there should be uniformity in the implementation of these programs. So for few programs there is uniformity, just like uniform or the umbrella program for scheduled caste. So whether the scheduled caste belongs to Maharashtra or a scheduled caste belongs to Odisha, there is a need of empowerment of the scheduled caste belonging to any state. So these programs, they need a national overview. The national outlook should be same. And these optional schemes, they are optional. If the state wants to implement it, they will get the funds. So it will be 50-50. If you want to implement, 50% will be compensated by union government. If you don't want to implement, you don't have to implement these programs. This is after budget 2016-17. In this core of the core, there will be only 6 programs. And in the core, there will be 18 programs. So these 6 programs, it includes MG Narega, then we have National Social Assistance Program, and then we have the umbrella program for SC, umbrella program for ST, umbrella program for backward classes and for minority. These are the 6 core of the core schemes. First one is MG Narega, National Social Assistance Program, umbrella scheme for empowerment of SC, umbrella scheme for empowerment of ST, then umbrella scheme for minorities and umbrella scheme for other backward classes. And under this core, there will be like that R Urban Mission, Shama Prasad Mukherjee R Urban Mission, then we have ICDS, all these other programs that will come under this core. Under this core, the sharing percentage will be 60:40, and under this core of the core, whatever the present sharing pattern, that will be continued, and under this optional, it will be 50:50. So this is what the changes which has been done after this budget 2016 and 17. So the government also wants to rationalize the CSS, because the responsibility of the implementing agency was less in case of this central sponsored scheme, because these things are mentioned under the state list. So these bodies are responsible to the states, but money they are getting from the union government. So when we discussed that this is state and this is union government, so the money given by a planning commission or Ministry of Finance, and the second one they are getting money through Finance Commission. So we can have state 1, we can have state 2, state 3, state 4, we have total 29 states. So which state should get how much amount of money? There should be some formula based on which the money should be or the grant should be given. So Finance Commission uses its own formula that we will discuss in next class. But this Planning Commission uses Gadgil-Mukherjee formula to devolve the funds. So first, under this Gadgil-Mukherjee